We'd like to think our hobbies as a safe fantasy, whether it's collecting rare minifigs or finding a community at a store like Bricks Minifigs. We build these spaces to escape the harsh reality of the world. But what happens when the people running the show rely on the fact that you're too comfortable to look closer? Today, we are doing a signal shift. We aren't just looking at the drama between Reckless Ben and the situation at Bricks and Minifigs. We're looking at what it means to actually hold people accountable when the systems we trust start to break. We're going to look at the patterns, the power dynamics, and the why safe fantasy is often the most dangerous place to be. The methodology of truth you've seen in these videos. You've seen the evidence presented by Reckless Ben. If you're like me, you're on his side. Not just because he's entertaining, but because he's doing the work that most people are too tired or too scared to do. He isn't just chasing clicks. He's recognizing a pattern. When you see a predator, whether that's a corporate entity or an individual, operating in the shadows of a niche community, it rarely is a one-time mistake. It's a systematic choice. Ben's methodology, the way he forces response, the way he doesn't back down, is a masterclass in modern accountability. He understands that in a system built on reputation, the only way to shift the signal is to make the private behavior public. He recognized that the owner was relying on the community's silence, and by breaking the silence, he forced a paradigm shift. He's teaching us that documentation is the antidote to gaslighting. When you have the receipts, you don't need to argue. You just need to show the truth. The case study, the illusion of the community. When we look at the Bricks and Minifigs situation, we have to look past Lego sets and the storefronts. We have to look at the power imbalance between a franchise model and the consumer. Most franchise systems are sold to us on the promise of a community and consistency. But what happens when that safe front hides a reality of poor management or ethical compromise? This is where the signal shift becomes necessary. Analyzing the red flags, let's pause here to look at one specific piece of evidence from the BAM situation. Okay? Why is this a massive red flag? Because it represents the gatekeeper strategy. When someone in a situation of power responds to a legitimate question with deflection or by questioning the intent of the person asking, they are trying to shift the focus away from their actions. They are banking on the idea that if they can make the critic look like the problem, the community will rally around the status quo. It is a classic tactic. Avoid accountability by fostering grouping. The Steelman argument. It is just a toy store, right? Now, I want to address the counter argument. Some might say we're being too harsh, or that it's just a toy store, or that this is just an internet drama that doesn't actually matter in real world. Here is why that argument is fundamentally flawed. This isn't about Legos. It's about the social contract. When we engage in any community, we are trading our trust for a service or a shared experience. When a business or a leader violates that trust, the scale of the business doesn't matter. The violation of the principle does. If we allow this toy store to be an excuse for unethical behavior, we create a precedent that anything goes as long as it's not serious enough. If we don't hold the small situations accountable, we lose the ability to hold the large ones accountable. The macro pattern here, personal reflection. This isn't just about Lego now. This is about modern accountability in a failing system across the board. Let's talk about the time in your life, maybe a job, a local club, or a social circle, where you saw something wrong, right? Maybe the tunnel, felt trapped in, the fear of speaking up, temptation to just scroll past. and stay in the safe fantasy, and how you eventually realized that silence was a form of complicity. Ask yourself, how many times have you stayed silent because you didn't want to be the problem? That fear of social ostracization is exactly what keeps systems of abuse in place. The moment you decide to prioritize your comfort over the truth of movement, you become part of the system's protective layer. So, we can awake the consumer. Spot these patterns before you become a public scandal, right? Watch for contradictions. Does this internal reality match the internal fun branding? Observe accountability. Does the organization pivot to transparency or do they retreat into defensiveness? Evaluate the power dynamics. Are they banking on your loyalty to insulate them from criticism? This is the lesson here. We can enjoy the hobbies, but we have to be the adults in the room. We need to see people by their actions, not just their words. We need to recognize patterns and behavior to protect ourselves and our communities. It's easy to drown in the confusion and the he said, she said, but look at the actions. Look at the trial. We need to read more and scroll less. Here's the signal shift. Here isn't just about collecting. It's about deciding that you aren't going to hide in a safe fantasy anymore. The harsh reality isn't something to fear. It's something to confront. I want to know, where else are you seeing these safe fantasy facade starting to crack? Are there any other communities you're a part of where the signal is getting lost in the noise? Let's talk about the patterns. Let's hold the space for the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Because if we don't start paying attention to the actions behind the words, who will? Stay observant. Keep shifting the signal. I'll see you in the next one.